All right, so hey everybody, it's Mark and Mario again. Hope you're back with us. If you're hearing me right now, you are definitely back with us, or you forgot to turn your laptop off. But yeah, we're here for an exciting match between that is not just kind of here. Zach is on Affinity, and Robert is on Grixis Death Shadow.
So two pretty top tier decks in Modern here. We get to see Affinity again. We saw that last round, but Grixis Shadow is a new one.
Yep, and this is a neat matchup because obviously, as we've talked about all night, Affinity can win games out of nowhere, but this is another one where Affinity's got to really fight through a lot of hate here. You've got Colligan's Command, Fatal Push.
Right.
But again, there's no denying that Affinity has the potency to win games as it has for the last 10 years. I mean, the deck just it's got potent strategies in the form of Arcbound Ravager and Cranial Plating and Etch Champion.
And this is a matchup really where Death Shadow's life total, how much life they lose, it might actually come into effect because they're burning themselves so much to get their Death Shadows online, but Affinity can deal a few points of damage quickly, a Galvanic Blast, a Flying Threat.
This is one of the few matchups in all of Modern where Affinity might not want to see their Inkmoth Nexuses. Inkmoth Nexus is kind of a bad card here because Zach really wants to be able to attack Robert's life total because Robert's going to be tanking his own life total and doing half the work for him. And Inkmoth Nexus can't really impact that life total. And more importantly, there's almost no way you'd really want to go for an Infect kill here if Robert has any cards in hand because one Fatal Push and you're down for the count. So this is the one matchup where Zach might not want to see his Inkmoth Nexuses, which is generally a star player in the deck.
Yeah, Ashiak in the chat. Yeah, the overlay is incorrect. Zach is on Affinity, not Just Kinda Here.
Yep. That Just Kinda Here is from last round.
So it looks like Robert has mulled to 6 here.
Not a good start. Obviously, you want as many cards as possible, but you want to have in a deck that's doing a lot of sort of mid-range control-y things like Grixis Death Shadow is, Robert really wants to be able to match up pound for pound with these threats, and every card he's down means he's got one less Lightning Bolt or one less Terminate or one less Fatal Push.
So Zach leads off on Blinkmoth, Ornithopter, Volt Scourge.
So
pretty decent.
Yeah, Blinkmoth is a great card for Zach here. Unlike Inkmoth Nexus, this Blinkmoth is going to attack that life total in a way that's difficult for Robert to deal with, especially as Robert gets lower and lower and lower. The other key thing here is that Affinity has a lot of chump blockers to get in the way of these Death Shadows. I don't know if Robert has something like Teamer Battle Rage. Typically, these Grixis decks aren't really playing any Teamer Battle Rage, not in the main or the side. And so Zach can actually survive for a long time while he gets in his flying damage over the top simply by chump blocking with these Ornithopters.
All those Ornithopters and Memnites that he has can actually
So we've got a Serum Visions from Robert. Let's see what he finds. Looks like a Thought Scour and maybe a Blood Crypt.
Yeah, it looked like a land there.
If Robert's got a threat in hand, a Delve threat, he'll probably want to keep that Thought Scour. Not a terribly fast start from Zach, though. Let's see what he can do to follow it up.
Super explosion that Affinity is known for. In Zach's hand, he looks like he has 2 additional lands, a Galv Blast, and an Etched Champion.
Galv Blast is great here. Galv Blast is what Zach needs to sort of chop up that last bit of damage. Yeah. So I expect that Galv Blast to be very relevant in a few turns here.
And he just drew a Thoughtcast, which of course can draw him a couple cards to refill his hand. So he is animating Blinkmoth
for that flying damage
and attacking for 2.
Yeah, so that makes the life totals 13 to 19, and Zach will pass.
So it looks like he did keep the Thought Scour on top. He drew it for a turn, and now he's going to crack his Scalding Tarn here.
So do we have the beautiful turn 2 Tassiger here?
I think he does have a Tassiger in hand, so we might see that here.
Yeah, he'll have to Thought Scour himself to do it. It looks like that's what his... Oh, no.
Never mind.
Wow, so 2 3/3 Death Shadows. If Robert has a Street Wraith in hand, these can be 5/5s. It's unclear who's got the edge on the board right now because these flying threats are really very good against Death Shadow. But things could turn very quickly. As we know, the Death Shadow is always lurking closely behind.
Yeah, the Death Shadow is not going to be blocking much here, but they do represent a healthy chunk of damage for Zach's life total.
So Cranial Plating's big. That's the card that Robert doesn't want to see.
And getting it on this lifelink creature obviously going to help him out in the aggression.
Yeah, I think Robert's got to find a Colligan's command here to try to get some of these threats off the board. If Robert can get a Colligan's to blow up his Vault Scourge and take out the Cranial Plating, that'd be pretty big.
Fortunately for Robert, Zach only has 3 artifacts in play right now, so the Vault Scourge isn't huge, but it's still a healthy chunk of life he's gaining back.
And notably, with the Cranial Plating on this Vault Scourge, Zach is gaining a good amount of life, which means that it's easier and easier and easier for Zach to tap out because 2 Death Shadows can only present lethal for so long. In fact, the most damage those guys can do would be what, 26, and Zach is actually quickly going to creep above that life total here if things keep going like this. So Robert will swing, which is a good play because he can't block any of these things anyway.
Yeah. Looks like Robert has 2 blue cards in hand, maybe a Tarfire. I don't know if he would play that as he's not on the Jund version, so could be another red removal spell.
So we've got this Galblast coming down. That Galblast would put him to 3 swings. If Robert's on double Fatal Push, that's a big deal here, but if not...
Yeah, I think he has a Stubborn Denial in hand, so he will be able to counter the
Galblast. That's good.
But instead, Zach is going to opt for the Etched Champion here, which of course is basically unblockable and unremovable on Robert's end, probably post or pre-board.
Yeah, that's a big card here too. We're going to terminate
the Vault Scourge. It's a good start, but his Etched Champion might put the final points.
I think the main phase Etched Champion from Zach there was a little greedy. The obvious intent is to get 1 more damage out of the Vault Scourge, but you also make the terminate target really easy because you don't have, you're not even able to bluff moving the Etched Champion from Ornithopter to Ornithopter. So I don't know about the main phase Etched Champion there before combat anyway.
So we'll see if Robert has some line that keeps him alive for a turn, but it's not looking super likely.
With Robert being stuck on 2 lands, now maybe he's not, maybe he's holding a land, but if he had the ability to go Fatal Push, Snapcaster, Fatal Push or something like that, that could be okay.
Right.
But again, it's going to be very tough for him to deal with an Etched Champion and a Cranial Plating.
Right.
Zach can kind of turn the corner whenever he wants to here.
So he's going to block both. The Death Shadows, Ornithopter will die. Etched Champion will not, since it has protection from all colors.
All right, let's see if Robert has a Colligan's command.
Oh, he's only got 2 mana at this point.
Well, I think he might be holding on to a 3rd land to bluff here, but I'm not sure about that.
Oh, interestingly, if he removes an artifact, the Etched Champion will lose.
That's true because Zach doesn't have any artifact lands in play. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what the miscommunication there with the players was.
Yeah.
But it looks like Robert maybe didn't realize at the outset that he could take the champion off Metalcraft. But either way, Zach was in a favorable position from the get-go. He had a slow start, but the top deck Cranial Plating and the Etched Champion sort of sealed the deal. And again, he had a copious number of Ornithopters to block for days, so he was never in any real threat of dying.
So moving to sideboard here, Robert's probably going to have some better answers, but not really sure how great they're going to be for him.
Yeah, my guess is if Robert has any additional removal, whether it's a Forked Bolt or something that goes wide like Anger of the Gods, those would be big.
If he's lucky, he might have Kozilek's Return that could take out his champion.
Return, yep.
Do we think he has Ancient Grudge maybe?
So I don't know what colors Robert is actually on. I think Robert might be splashing white.
Okay.
For Lingering Souls, but it's also possible Robert's not splashing anything. These decks are totally viable 3-color. So I don't know. I'm doubtful, though, that he has Ancient Grudge. What do you think Zach wants?
Well, he's probably going to want some actual removal and interaction with the Death Shadows. I mean, he can chump like them for a while, but...
Oh, so one interesting thing I will say, Zach, you're right. Zach actually does have... Zach has Dispatch.
Right, the Metalcraft Path to Exile.
Yeah, and what's neat here is Dispatch is obviously a clean answer to all of Robert's threats, which is kind of annoying for Robert. But Zach really has to decide what sort of split he wants between Galv Blast and Dispatch.
Right.
Because the fact is, Zach can't have too many colored cards in the deck. He can't just bring. He can't leave all four. Affinity can't have too many colored mana symbols in the deck. Zach doesn't want to have 4 Galv Blast and 4 Dispatch. That cuts his artifacts. It cuts his ability to actually cast that many colored spells. And the problem is, Zach really wants both of those. The Dispatch is great for answering the threats, but the Galv Blast closes out the game. My intuition is that Zach wants the Dispatch when he's on the draw and being less aggressive, but that he wants the Galv Blast on the play.
Right.
So I would wonder if we see all the Galv Blasts come out here and see some of those Dispatches
assuming he's playing Dispatch, not every Affinity list runs it.
Well, I know I've seen Zach with Dispatch in past weeks, but he also does change his list basically every week. So so I don't know, but maybe we'll see one here. I'm not sure what else Zach would want.
Yeah, he could also be playing some discard of his own. It's possible to splash black with the multicolored lands that Affinity runs.
Yeah, I think Thoughtseize or something like that is a little bit of a trap against a Grixis deck, because you're fueling the Delve, and he's got Snapcaster, and he's got Colligans. So you're kind of 2-for-1ing yourself sometimes with that Thoughtseize from Affinity here. But I am curious to see what Zach brings in.
Of course, he could just do what he did last game and overpower in the air.
That's right, though I do think it will be tougher for him to do on the draw.
Right.
Clearly being on the play is huge in this matchup, like most matchups in Modern.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if where's the pizza from? No, I don't know. Maybe I'll let you know.
Yeah, of course the players cannot hear us, but they know that we are commentating for them. Yeah, you're right there, the Rush. Affinity is a pretty tough matchup for Shadow, especially just because, dwindling your own life total against such an aggressive deck is usually not a great game plan.
Yeah, and one key thing that this deck doesn't have, obviously they have Colligan's Command to deal with cranial plating, but this deck, like Robert has, a Grixis Death Shadow, probably doesn't have Abrupt Decay. It's unlikely he's splashing green, and Abrupt Decay is a really good card because it's 2 mana versus 3 mana is a big deal when you're talking about this matchup. So Abrupt Decay is something that Robert is sorely missing by not playing a Jund Death Shadow style deck, and in that kind of deck he would also have access to Colligan's Command.
So we can see in Zach's hand here, he did in fact bring in a Dispatch, at least one.
We saw the Dispatch.
Looks like he's not going to be able to keep that hand, as I don't think it had any lands. So he will be mulliganing to 6.
Yeah. So Dispatch definitely a good card here. It's super relevant, not just because it's cheap, efficient removal, but because you can prevent your Grixis opponent from using Colligan's Command to get that threat back.
Right, because it exiles it, so that's a good advantage. I wonder if Robert maybe brought in something like Ceremonious Rejection, if he has those.
That could be that would be a good. In fact,
I've seen those in the sideboard of some Grixis lists.
That would be a good card to deal with the Etch Champion, because the Etch Champion is almost certainly not going to come down on turn 1. So you can hold up, you can reasonably counter it at some point in the game, especially on that 1 mana. Yeah, I'd be excited to see Ceremonious Rejection. I wonder if Zach would even be able to play around that, or if he'd even think about playing around it.
Yeah, so Robert's going to lead with Serum Visions here. He also has a Liliana the Last Hope in hand. That may have been a sideboard option. I know some of these lists run a couple main board, but it is pretty good at picking off the little threats that Affinity produces.
Yeah, no, that card's a house here. It unfortunately does not kill Ornithopter.
No. Zach leading on a pretty strong start.
Yeah, Ornithopter cranial plating is pretty good.
Robert's just going to pass the turn. Okay. It looks like Zach also has 2 Etched Champions in hand, which
he's got the man of the cast.
Very difficult to deal with from Robert's end. Yep, that one resolves, I think.
I think, well, I think what you do there is you just swing with the Ornithopter and hope you can get Robert to do something stupid to try to deal with the 0-power swinging Ornithopter, and then you drop the champion.
I mean, I guess there's no reason not to attack, but
yeah, I mean, at this point, there's no reason not to be tapping that Ornithopter basically every combat step. And there's always a chance you can make Robert do something suboptimal.
So the Ornithopter is going to get Fatal pushed here, and then Robert's going to Thought Scour himself. He did bring in Ceremonious Rejection. We can see one go to his graveyard.
There's a Ceremonious right there.
Unfortunate, he did not have it in hand to counter that Etched Champion.
Yeah.
And he just drew another one. Okay, well.
Another Ceremonious?
Yes.
Okay, well that's so he can counter the second Etched Champion.
That's
if
true.
he can counter the second Etched Champion and get that cranial plating off the board, Robert's actually in a very good position. Because Etched Champion by itself is not that much of a clock, and Zach's only man land is Inkmoth Nexus, which, as we discussed earlier, is not a very good man land in this matchup.
Yeah, so unfortunately for Robert, though, I don't think he will be able to counter this second Etched Champion since he does not have blue mana up.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, you got to slam the Tassiger, but this second Etched Champion is going to be a beating.
Yeah, because if you can't deal with one, you almost certainly can't deal with 2.
So I guess we'll find out if Robert has the Kozilek's return.
Kozilek's return, yeah. Kozilek's return would be a great out here, as Kozilek's return is technically a colorless spell, so Etched Champion's protection does not save it there. Robert taking a large chunk of damage from this Etched Champion that he cannot block.
Yeah, I don't think this matchup is that bad for Grixis. I mean, certainly it's bad, but Etched Champion's one of the cards that really, sends it to you. And Zach has been fortunate to see 3 Etched Champions in the past 2 games.
I think Robert's is he just dead here?
Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
He actually
6,
has
7,
Kozilek's
8.
return in hand, I think, but not the third. Yep. That is quite unfortunate.
Wow. Well, that's
that was an unfortunate series of draws on Robert's
we were
end.
1 land away there from having a very fun game on our hands, but no, that
it looks like he did not shuffle his sideboard in very well, as his draws were Ceremonious Rejection, Ceremonious Rejection, Kozilek's return.
Yeah, sometimes Modern, you win when you see your sideboard, and sometimes you still get screwed.
So, back-to-back wins of Affinity here, showing that it is, of course, still a powerhouse deck in the Modern format, even if
you steal your sideboard.
Recently.
Yeah, too bad about that.